All right, guys, the rare earth mining sector continues to gain popularity and gain traction as more and more demand comes in for these rare earth metals and minerals when it comes to making batteries and electronics. We're going to talk to Ion Energy today and CEO Ali Haji about some mining and exploration that the company is currently conducting throughout Asia. Good to have you, Ali. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on for the first time. This is a very interesting space and a good time to be involved in this space. I mean, we mention it almost on a daily basis about, there's another EV player, there's another company looking for batteries of some sort. So let's talk about Ion Energy. Give everyone a little bit of an introduction to start.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brendan. Ion Energy is a company I co-founded back in 2017 during a visit to Mongolia. Mongolia is a vast country with a fair number of different resource projects, but lithium was really a new sort of aspect of exploration for them. We approached the Mongolian government back in 2017, looked at a bunch of data, and ultimately ended up getting a really massive land package, 81,000 hectares, very close to the Chinese border, that's highly prospective in the lithium brine space. So that was acquired in January 2019. We've been operating in country, as I mentioned earlier, for over 10 years, but we took Ion public on the TSX back in August last year, and at 81,000 hectares with a max grade of 811 ppm, very close to surface, it's a rather compelling project that allowed us to go public on the Venture Exchange on. The team has had a significant amount of experience in Mongolia, but also internationally. And I think you'll notice based on you visit our website, Ion Energy, but Step Gold being a sister company, we've had a number of different successes in country so far.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I want to talk about the property here as we get into things a little bit, but let's focus first off on the mineral itself. But going back to 2019, obviously we weren't seeing the interest and the hype that there is around this kind of topic and sector that there is now. What was the kind of attraction to going into lithium specifically at that point?
Yeah, I mean, 2017, tail end of last battery metals boom, lithium included. We figured it's going to come back. It's cyclical, much like everything else. And so we started up the company. 2017, when we did our research, we were granted the license in 2019. We would have loved to have been public by 2019, but obviously crypto and cannabis sort of stole the limelight. Enter 2020, pandemic, battery metals start to sort of have a bit of an impact. Resource sector starts to uptake again. But after the pandemic, the governments around the world started to tout green COVID recoveries. They printed vast sums of money. The EU, 750 billion euro, with Biden's inauguration, 400 billion over the coming years. And that money is being driven towards EVs and a green revolution. So away with fossil fuels and enter the clean, green mobility of the future. That's helped a lot of EV companies around the world sort of have this massive uptick, Tesla included. I heard NIO being mentioned on the show a little earlier here today. And ultimately, this government spending has incentivized the consumer today to buy into an electric vehicle or an EV type mobility solution. As a result, the demand for lithium has begun to increase quite quickly. We think we've hit bottom in terms of lithium pricing. And the minerals that go into batteries, lithium is irreplaceable. As of January, I think in China, lithium carbonate and lithium hydroxide prices have started to uptick as well. So it's sort of the right time at the right place. But our strategic advantage is ultimately proximity to market, being 24 kilometers from the Chinese border.
Ali Haji is CEO of Ion Energy joining us today. Let's talk about the property in Mongolia. What stage is the company at, first off, when it comes to the mining process? And, what are the expectations? What are you looking for as far as targets for the minerals that are coming out of the property?
Absolutely. Lithium is the reason that we took on this license, and that's our early indications based on the work we've seen historically shows us that there is significant lithium here. It's 81,000 hectares. It's a massive land package. It's an endoheric basin, so very similar to what you'll see in the lithium triangle. And our expectation, now that we've received our license and we are trading, is to continue to de-risk the assets over the warmer months using a very strong, aggressive exploration strategy. We'll de-risk Bavayul. We'll continue to work on Urgakh Naran, which is our second acquisition that we announced about a month ago. We have an additional 3 or 4 licenses we're looking to add on to our roster in country as well. So you're going to see a lot of action from the company with respect to both exploration that allows us to de-risk and ultimately acquisition that allows us to de-risk further in terms of being a one asset sort of company.
Now, Ali, you mentioned the size of the property is massive. Obviously, that's going to require time. What is the timeline as far as getting to, a production standpoint, getting to a point where we have a little bit of understanding as far as what's to come?
Yeah, we've started our geophysics CSAMT last year. We're doing microseismic now on Bava-Iol, and that ultimately gives us a sense of the thickness, the depth, and the width of that aquifer body beneath surface. That in turn will allow us to put our auger rig to work, pull up the brine samples, get an average sample grade across the volume of the aquifer body. That gives you a rudimentary early resource indication. So by the end of this summer, we'll have a very, very good understanding of what sort of position we're in terms of what we're holding. When we talk about production something that, it's still early days. We need to understand our chemistry better. And as a junior miner with a market cap, sub 30 million today, the CapEx requirements to take something like this into production are quite vast. So we've already begun sort of having low-level conversations with strategics that would ultimately allow us to take this thing to production in say 2 years' time. But our focus now is truly to identify and really identify the resource.
Mentioned the market valuation here. Let's shift focus a little bit to that. Obviously, under some of the competitors in the space. Why don't you tell everyone why that is at this point?
Absolutely. I think, being first movers in Mongolia, a jurisdiction that's not very well understood, that has a lot to do with it. But geologically speaking, and having looked at the structure, having conferred with professionals and experts in the field, and that information's all on our website, we're well below the median enterprise value per hectare. In terms of evaluation for most companies. So post money, when we went public last year, we should have been valued about 40 million post money. We're still sub 30 million today. We've added 25% more acreage in terms of a land package with the acquisition of Urgach Narren. So you'd expect that number to be between 40 and 55 million valuation today. And we're still lagging behind that. I think it has to do with jurisdiction, A, and B, purely because we're a new company that's out here educating the market like we're doing here today, Brendan.
Yeah, it's an interesting time and an interesting space to be in. As we mentioned, let's talk a little bit about the sector itself. Where do we see this? Do we see demand just continuing to kind of snowball as it has over the past 2 to 3 years? Where do we see this demand going, let's say 5 years out, and then maybe even further down the road?
I think, more and more producers are going to have to find unconventional ways to start to produce lithium that goes into batteries around the world, given the fact that we're buying, a lot more EVs per capita in the Asian side of the world than we are on this side of the world. We're going to catch up pretty quickly. Government mandates that are stipulating that we move all our mobility to electric vehicles or face hefty fines. That in turn will also drive up the adoption rate. So demand for lithium, in our view, is not going anywhere. We've seen that the prices come up in China as of the last 2 months. We've seen the likes of Volkswagen with their massive power day on Monday start to talk about their electric vehicles, BMW Group not too far behind. So ultimately, lithium prices, in our view, not going anywhere. Demand, in our view, definitely going to snowball. And what better opportunity than to be closest to the largest market in the world, and that being China.
The stock currently listed here in Toronto, ION on the TSX. If you want to check it out, guys, on the OTC market as well. Any plans for an uplisting in the future?
So we're on the QB today, and we did that back in January. We knew that the U.S. market was a strong enough market for us to look at. We also want to go over to the QX at some point once our audited financials are done. But I think, the more visibility we get on our stock, the better we perform. But ultimately, the QX is where we'll stop for this year.
Ali Haji is CEO of ION Energy in the rare earth mining space. A good place to be at this time in present time. Anyways, great to chat with you today, Ali. A pleasure. We wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to an update.
Thanks very much, Brendan.
There we go, guys. A little bit of look at ION Energy. Yeah, a rare earth mining company, Canadian.